Good morning students, myself Dr. K.M. Dadure, Assistant Professor, Bajaj College of Science, Wardha. Students, today I am going to deliver a second part of this unit, and in this second part of this unit, today we are going to discuss a topic, and that topic is non-aqueous solvent. So students, the word solvent, as far as our previous class is concerned, we already discussed what is the solvent, what is the solute, okay, and we also discussed how the nature of the solvent also, as far as the solubility and insolubility and their polar and non-polar concept is concerned. So here in this topic we totally discussing how the non-aqueous solvents and some aqueous solvents are working in the chemistry, and due to their working, how the chemical reaction is proceeding. Okay, so now the most of the chemical reaction is familiar to us, take place in the aqueous solutions, and since there are the water, we all know that what is the water, and due to the high value of its dielectric constant, the water has increased the ability to dissolve the ionic compounds and then many other substances, and that is the reason the water is actually called as the universal solvent. But however, there are many chemical reactions which cannot carried out in the aqueous solutions, but carried out in the some non-aqueous medium. Okay, so there is some restrictions also in case of reactions point of view, and that is the reason a large number of the non-aqueous solvents have been discovered in the last few years. Okay, and that is the reason this is actually have the solvent which having a value of their dielectric constant and hence dissolve the many substances. Okay, so there are number of examples of such a solvents. In that we are going to discuss the anhydrous solvent, and that anhydrous solvent is like that: ammonia, liquid SO2, okay, then HF, that is a hydrogen fluoride, and sulfuryl chloride and sulfuryl phosphoryl chloride, and then liquid N2O2, and etc. Okay, all these are actually the solvent which are used and which are coming in the category of anhydrous solvent. Let's see the classifications. So this is again one of the more interesting part of the class, non-aqueous solvent. So here we will see how the non-aqueous solvents are classified. So depending on the physical and chemical properties, so solvent have been classified in number of ways. Okay, in that we will see a solvent is a liquid, and that serves as the medium for the reactions. It can serve the two major purpose. Okay, and that two major purpose is what we will see here: the ionizing, okay, and non-ionizing, where the ionizing is actually the part of polar or ionic, and non-ionizing is the part of non-polar or non-ionic solvents. Okay, so in that ionizing and non-ionizing and polar and non-polar, we will see the number of categories of solvents. Okay, in that we will distinguish the polar and non-polar, and on that basis we actually here classifying the solvent in number of ways. In that the protonic or protic solvent. Okay, but when we discuss this protonic or protic solvent, so students, again this protonic and protic solvent is divided into the two parts. Okay, and that two part is what? First is the solvent, acidic solvent. In that acidic solvent we can see here the H2SO4 is the one of the example which is coming in the category of acidic solvent. HF, CH3COOH, acetic acid, HCN, etc. All these are actually the categories of acidic solvent. Then we are going to discuss the basic solvents. So basic solvent, the example is ammonia, then after C5H5, okay, and then amines and N2NH4. All these are actually the categories of basic solvents. Okay, so student, the basic solvent we can see these are the actually example, and in that we will see how the this protic and protonic solvent, and in that protic and protonic solvent how the categories of acidic and basic solvents is working in a different way. So as far as the acidic nature is concerned, so these have the strong tendency to donate the protons, and that is the reason they are actually, you can see here, all these are the example where proton is present, and this proton, when they dissolve, after the dissolving, they are easily donate their hydrogen ions. Okay, and that is actually the property of this acidic solvents. So when we talk for basic solvents, so here in the basic solvent, basic, or we can say here the protophilic solvent, these have the strong tendency to accept the protons. Okay, these have the strong tendency to accept the proton. It means that whatever this example is given here, so they when they involved in their chemistry, so they basically accept the protons, and in that way we can see that there are the differences in between the acidic and then basic solvents. Now the next is non-protonic or aprotic solvent. So students, as far as the word itself is indicating that the solvent which don't have the protons, which don't have the hydrogens in their combinations. So here we will see the examples of such a type of solvent, in that benzene C6H6, CaCl3, this is a chloroform, SO2, CCl4, then bromine trifluoride. All these are the very well-known examples of the non-protonic or aprotic solvents. Then after amphoteric or amphiprotic solvents. So student, again this is the one interesting solvent, and as far as the amphoteric substance and amphoteric nature is concerned, we already studied lot of things about in our 12th standard, and here we will be the focus only on how these solvents are working in the chemical reactions and how they taking part in a different ways. So amphoteric and amphiprotic solvent is actually, these have the hydrogen in their formulas, and they can donate or accept the proton, which is depending on the nature of reacting species. Okay, and this is actually the speciality of the amphoteric solvent. So there are the example, this is acetic acid, water is also one of the example. Okay, and basically this can act both as an acid or base, and due to this dual nature, okay, that acidic and basic dual nature, they are actually called as amphoteric. Okay, and that is the reason they are amphoteric in the nature, and this solvent basically dissociate into the protons and anionic species, and that are actually the example of CH3COOH, and water is one of the very well-known example. Okay, the next is there are again two types of the solvents, and in that we will see the ionizing solvent, polar or ionic solvent. This ionizing is actually categorized into the polar or ionic. In that we can see here the well-known example or universal solvent is water, ammonia, HF, formic acid, methanol. And why we are called them ionic or polar, because you can see here the polarity is basically the function of two different electronegativity factor. Okay, and in this example those example is here. So all they are having the dipolar nature in their compositions, and that is the reason they also take part in ionizing, and that is the reason they are actually called as the polar or ionic substances. The next is the non-ionizing, non-polar or non-ionic substances. In that we can see here the N-hexane, benzene, stolene, chloroforms, CaCl3s, and 1,4-dioxane. These are the ones. These are some specific examples of non-ionizing solvents. Okay. As far as the word ionizing and non-ionizing, we can jointly understood in one single sentence. They are also called as polar and non-polar substances. Okay, and student, as far as the solubility is concerned, we all know that the polar is get soluble, but polar and non-polar is not get soluble easily. Okay, and on that basis they are actually working in the chemical system or in the chemical reactions. So next is the very important one, aqueous and non-aqueous solvents. So here these terms we will be understand by just taking the examples of the water. So here in this case of the aqueous and non-aqueous, so here the water is called as an aqueous solvent. We all know that because it is in the nature already, and we all know that water is actually the aqueous solvent, and the solvent is other than the water. Okay, other than the water, actually called as non-aqueous solvent. Get it? So what is the differences of aqueous and non-aqueous? Water actually coming in the category of the aqueous solvent, and other than the water, all the solvents are actually called as the non-aqueous solvents. Okay, so in the case of in this way we can see that the group is obtained as a result of the self-ionizations, and in the self-ionization of the water molecule we can see a very simple reaction. Water is get together and to form the hydronium ions and OH as a last basically the residue, and in this way this reaction is basically the reaction for the aqueous solvent. Okay, now the next is ammonia. They come when they come together, so ammonium ion is formed. Okay, and this is actually the reaction of your non-aqueous solvent, and these are the solvent categories, and these are basically the analogs of this solvent. In the same way we can see that the SO2 combine together and to form SO plus and SO3 negative ions. So these are actually the basic differences in between the aqueous and non-aqueous solvent and in their reactions, and in this way we can see that the solvent, each and every solvent is having their analogous groups. Okay, so the next important, and in that next important one we will see some general properties of the ionizing solvents, and in this general property the first important property is dipole moment. So student, as far as the word dipole moment is concerned, so we already we are familiar with these terms, but again this term we will be here discuss more interestingly and we will link it this term with how this term is actually associated with the non-aqueous solvents. Okay, so here the dipole moment is the product of change, and actually the distance in between the two charge is called as the dipole moment. Okay, it is a product of charge, sorry I said change, but it is actually the product of charge and distance between the two charges. It means that the two electronegativity pole. Okay, and it is actually the difference is called as dipole moment. And there are number of solvent they having such a dipole moment properties and having a very higher value of the dipole moment, and when such a dipole moment is found in any of the solvent, okay, so basically such a solvent is dissolved the polar substance, that is the polar substance, or we can say the polar solutes. And in this way we can see that we can recall our previous study in solvent always accept the solvent, and polar always accept the polar solute, polar compound, and non-polar compound is always interact the non-polar compound readily and easily. And this is because of the fact is that greater the polarity of the solvent of that molecule, greater is the solvation energy which is released during the dissolution of solute. Okay, and this is actually the important factor in this dipole moment, or the dipole moment which is associated with that particular solvent. The next is dielectric constant and dissolutions of the ionic compound in the polar solvent. So student, in this we will simply see this formula, F is equal to Q plus Q minus upon dr square. So in this basically the formula we will discuss, this is actually the Coulombic force of attraction F between the cations and anions, okay, in an ionic crystal, which is actually given by this formula, where this Q plus and this Q negative are actually the charges on the cations and anion respectively, and this R factor is actually the distance in between the cations and anion, and this capital D is actually constant, and that also called as the dielectric constant, and this D is actually the depending upon the nature of the solvent in which the ionic crystal is kept. Okay, and in this way this above expression and this expression is shows that the same value of the Q plus and then Q negative and then R, okay, and if the F is small, okay, same value of this Q is Q and this R if the F is small. and then D will be the large, that is a solvent having a high value of D, a solvent having the high value of D will be reduce F. Okay, so here don't more focus as far as this terminology is concerned. We will only be discussing how this dielectric constant and dissolutions of the ionic compound in the polar solvent is work. Okay, so you just remember this formula and how this formula is actually the working. Only this part will here we are going to take in interest. Okay, now the next is electrical conductance. So as far as the physics student is concerned, and even the chemistry students, biological student, they all know what is the conductance. And as far as the electrical, so we all know that what is the electrical conductance. Okay, we already performed so many experiments related to these terms. So here students, this electrical conductance is actually the solvent, all the solvent basically are, so these are not all the solvent, but basically the solvent, those are self-ionizing. Okay, those are self-ionizing, and they having the electrical conductance, and due to this process they actually were giving us the information about the extent of ionizations. Okay, so in this way we can see that, and we can say that the greater is the ionization, easier it is for the acid base reaction to occur in the solvent. Get it? Greater will be the ionization, so it will be the easy for us to perform and to proceed the reaction in acid base reactions. Okay, in that particular solvent. So this is actually the properties of electrical conductance. Now the next is viscosity. And students, as far as the viscosity is concerned, the viscometer we already handle in our lab, and we also calculate the number of parameters and different concentrations on that instruments. So we will not discuss all this, but we will see how the viscosity is the physical parameter which is associated with the nature of that solvent, nature of the solvent. So here the viscosity is an important properties of the liquid solvent, and some solvents are highly fluid. It means that their concentration is very high, they are very dense. Okay, and some solvents are highly fluid. It means that there are examples like water, then some low molecular weight alcohols. Okay, then ammonia is also. So these are the examples. Highly fluidity is actually the associated with water, and then some low molecular weight compounds, and then liquid ammonia is also here. But there are some solvent which are the very viscous in the nature, and in that category anhydrous H2SO4 is coming, then high molecular weight alcohol, and number of other substances which having the higher mass and higher density. Okay, so they having a very higher viscosities. So solvent with the low viscosity can be handled rather easily, and we can say the precipitation, crystallizations and filtrations are carried out. On the other hand, with the considerably difficulty in the solvent of high viscosity. So student, as far as the viscosity parameter is concerned, so even in the lab, as far as your experiences with the viscometer is concerned, when you perform the high dense material or high dense substances, so it is not easy to take the viscosity of such a high dense substances, because there are number of things are interrupted during the filling and during the moving of that solvent from that A part to the B part, and sometimes so many errors may also interact. Okay, and they are come in contact. So this is actually the some smoothness and some difficulties, and we can say non-smoothness which is followed as far as the viscosity parameter is concerned with that particular solvent. And in this way we can see that there are the number of things are associated with the ionizing solvent. So student, with this we are stopped here at this point and at this at slides. So for that I prefer the number of books, and you also please going to prefer this number of books and some YouTube channel also, in that you can understand the things, and it is better you, after the discussing this topic here, you go through the book and read it well and try to understand, and if you get any difficulties, so please call me. So So thank you very much. All the best.